something that is up these days is a lot of past release of heavy emotions, whether it be past emotions, past experiences, versions that you have been used to being, versions of you that you've been used to be, things that you've carried that was not yours to carry. I don't know why I'm also smiling while I'm saying this, because it's not enjoyable. But what I'm feeling is that someone right now is realizing that they had to carry so much that wasn't yours to carry. Maybe you were abused or just mistreated, misused, not respected, not loved. But whatever it may be, I'm getting the feeling that you have come to that understanding that it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your doing. You couldn't have stopped it. You couldn't have done anything so they wouldn't abuse you, because you know that the abuse comes from the abuser. It was their doing. It was their harm. But there's also a lot of grief and anger in realizing that their sickness became your reality. Their sickness, you had to live out the consequences of their sickness. You had to do time for their crime. And many of these people who harmed you, they will never own up to that fact. They will never look themselves in the eye and say, like, I did something bad and I'm going to take responsibility for it and deal with it. And even if they do reach that point of taking responsibility, it doesn't undo the harm that was done to you. So I'm getting the feeling that you were starting to realize that, well, you never deserved that treatment. And that's a harsh reality, because it's somehow very easy to live in the reality of, okay, something bad happened to me and that's how it is because I'm not good enough and I don't deserve good treatment. But when you realize that you do deserve respect, you do deserve to be handled with care, you do deserve love, you do deserve not to be abused. Your being, the person you are, your body has worth. You have boundaries. Then it somehow hurts even more to realize that you've been harmed, because that harm does not match your reality. Being treated as someone who is wretched when you believe you're wretched, that makes sense. But being treated with abuse and harm when you realize that you are worthy beyond words, that doesn't make any sense, and that's a hard pill to swallow. And there's something about regaining your control and regaining your boundaries, regaining your autonomy over your body, over your mind, over your beliefs, your values, reclaiming what is yours and realizing what is not yours. And it's not to say that the things that has happened to you doesn't affect you, because those things that happened that harmed you, they affected you and you carried it. And it's not as simple as to just let it go and move on. But then at the same time, there's a part of you that was always left in peace. There was a part of you that was never harmed, a part of you that always remained untouched, unbroken, not abused. There was a part of you that could never be abused, that could never be harmed. And so even though your body is aching and your mind is aching, your soul and your being is still intact. And I think that can be a comfort to know. It doesn't take away the pain or take away what happened, but it's just the perspective to know that you're still okay and you're still here. You still survived it. You went through it, and you're here right now, even if it's painful to be here. So I hope that you take this opportunity to really listen to that. When you get that feeling of, okay, it wasn't actually my fault. It was their harm. It was their abuse. It was their worthlessness. It was their suppressed shame. It was their suppressed guilt that they projected onto me. It was their stuff. And there's a lot of anger in that, and a lot of grief in that I hope you allow yourself to feel. There's a lot of injustice in realizing that someone has harmed you and you didn't deserve it, because you didn't do anything to deserve it, and you didn't do anything wrong, and you are not wrong as a person. You're not unworthy, and you're not guilty. So someone just harmed you because they got control out of it, or they got pleasure out of it, or they could avoid their own pain by putting that pain into you instead. And I think it's an important part of the healing process to see that that is a part of it. This narcissism, that someone has found so much joy, pleasure, satisfaction by harming you. Like it was all about them. It was all about them. It was their need. It was their, suppressed shadow. It was their pain. It was their unworthiness that you were forced to feel and carry. And I think this is a good time to talk to someone about it, to write about it, to get it off your chest, like physically get it onto a piece of paper or into a document on your computer, or say it out loud, talk to someone. Just get it out of your system, because it was never yours. Maybe that's why I'm smiling, because it's so ridiculous and so irrational. It's so irrational and so meaningless that someone has to carry the pain of someone else. It's so unjust, and it all comes back to this meaninglessness of why some people have to be abused and other people are the abusers. Some people harm and some people are harmed. And of course, sometimes people are both harmed and harm others. But yeah, it's just an injustice, especially to these kind beings, these people that are lights in the world that would never harm someone else. that they are subjected to so much abuse is just so meaningless. And I don't know how one can find any peace in that reality, in that realization that the world is just unjust in so many ways. And maybe that's just a pain that will always be there in some capacity. But I think what we do have control over is whether or not we want to continue to carry the harm, the sickness that was someone else's sickness